In this video, I'll first show some building tips, then I'll walk you through how to make the robot, and at the end, I'll show you how to troubleshoot some common issues. Okay, let's start with a few tips. If you ever have trouble fitting any two pieces together, you can rub some candle wax on the outside edges of the piece being inserted or on the inside edges of the other piece. This helps because when the wood pieces are being cut by the laser, the glue that holds the plywood together melts and gets on the outside edges of the wood. That glue is kind of tacky and it can make it difficult for the pieces to stick together. The wax covers that layer of glue so it's not quite so sticky, and that makes it easier to fit the pieces together. However, that layer of glue on the outside edges of the wood is also what helps these pieces stay together, so only use the candle wax when necessary. Okay, tip number 2. If there are two pieces that are too loose and they're falling apart, you can get a very small piece of masking tape, pinch it around the outside of the connector, and then fit it back into where it needs to go. Alternatively, if your robot is completely done and you've fine-tuned it and it's working great except something keeps falling out, you can just apply a little bit of super glue to the outside of the fitting. Okay, tip number 3. If you need to take something apart by hand, the easiest way to do this is to firmly pinch it, and as you pull, wiggle the piece from side to side. However, there's an easier way to separate two pieces. All you need is a blunt, non-sharp butter knife from your kitchen drawer, or a small flathead screwdriver. Either way, to remove two pieces more easily than by hand, wedge the tool between two of the parts, and then just give it a twist. Repeat on the other side until the part comes loose. You can also use this technique to loosen up a connection that's too tight. Tip number 4. If you want to paint the robot, I recommend doing that before assembling it. If you do choose to paint your robot, make sure not to get any paint inside any of the connection points or on the outside of any of the connectors. The first step is to wire up the battery holder to the motor. Make sure to turn the battery holder off so you don't accidentally create a short circuit by crossing the wires. Open up the battery holder and install the batteries so the flat side is touching the spring. The motors have two metal tabs on them that have holes, and we're going to use those to connect the battery holder. Take one of the wires, put it through the hole on either of the tabs, fold the wire, and then twist it as many times as you can. When you're twisting the wires, avoid pinching and twisting the metal tab on the motor. If you do that, it might break off. Repeat with the other wire. Through the hole, fold it in half, and then twist it as many times as you can. In the end, it should look something like this. Give it a light tug and make sure that the connections are strong. It doesn't matter where the red and black wires are connected. Turn it on and make sure that it works. Next, we're going to start building the bunny's body. Gather these two pieces that look like hairpins and interlock them like this. Then, to finish connecting them, stand it up on your work surface and push down with both hands. Now put this piece through this octagon hole in the front of the bunny. Make sure that there's an equal amount sticking out on each side. Then get two of these rings and fit one onto each side. Then fit this piece through this slot right here. And, like the front, make sure that there's an equal amount poking out on each side. Next, gather one of these big pieces and connect the main bunny shape to it right here and in the back. Set this aside for now because there's one more piece that needs to be created before we can move on. Gather these two T-shaped pieces. Note that the slot is at the bottom of one of them and the top of the other. These interlock just like this. Then, like before, finish by standing it up on your work surface and pushing down with both hands. Next, get this large circle with the cross-shaped hole. Note that this is bigger than this piece. Then connect the larger side of this piece to this piece. Again, the easiest way to do that is to put this on your work surface, get this piece in position, then push down with both hands. It can also help if you wiggle it a little bit. Now, take some candle wax and rub it on this side of the circle piece. This is going to help the robot move more easily later. Repeat one more time to create 2 of these pieces and set one of them aside for now. Okay, returning to the bunny, take this piece that was just made and put it into this long gap right here. The next step is to add the electronics. The motor will go right here. Before going any further, turn on the motor and notice which way it's turning. We need to make sure that this is turning in the correct direction. Imagine if this was a wheel. Right now, it would be driving the robot backwards, like this. We need this to be driving the robot forwards. So this is facing the wrong direction. If that happens to you, just take the motor out, turn it around, and then put it back in. Now when we turn it on, you can see that if this was like a wheel, it would be driving the robot forwards, which is what we want. Make sure this piece is still here. Then put the battery holder right here, making sure that the switch is as close to the face as possible. Then, tuck the wires away as best as you can. Get this piece that you prepped earlier, set it down right here, and now we'll attach the other side of the body. The easiest way to do this is to lay the robot down on its side while holding it in place. Get this part in position, then work it onto each of the fittings one at a time. Okay, it should look something like this. The bunny robot has 2 of the sides attached. The plastic motor shaft is poking through on both sides, and one of these is installed on each side in this gap right here. Next, get some candle wax and rub it on the inside of this gap here. Make sure to coat the top and the bottom. And repeat on the other side. This wax is going to help the robot move more smoothly. Next, you're going to need these staple-shaped connectors, and notice that there are small ones and larger ones. Get 2 of the large staple-shaped connectors, interlock them like this, and like before, finish by standing it up on your work surface and pushing down. Now fit this connector into the cross-shaped hole of this piece. The easiest way to do this is to first get it in position, and like before, push down with both hands and wiggle. Now connect this to the plastic motor shaft right here. Turn it on, and double check that the motor is still spinning in the right direction. Next, get 2 of these ring pieces and fit them on here. These pieces just act as spacers to make sure that all the parts of the leg mechanism line up correctly. Now get one of these pieces and just put it onto the motor connector. The next piece is the back leg. Put the round hole over the motor connector. Then you'll need to move this piece into position so it lines up with this cross-shaped hole. Once that connector is in position, put the robot flat on your work surface, position your thumbs next to the cross-shaped hole, and push down. Now get 2 of these pieces and connect them here and here to finish one of the back legs. Try it out and make sure it's moving smoothly. If it's not, don't worry. At the end of this video, I'll show you how to troubleshoot some common issues. Okay, next up is the front foot. Put this connector through the round hole in the front foot, like that, and cap that off with one of these pieces. Then make a connector out of these small staple-shaped pieces, insert it into this cross-shaped hole, then put this piece onto that connector and cap that off as well. Try it out one more time, and it should look something like this. Okay, this side is done. Now you just need to repeat on the other side. But before doing that, there's one really important thing to note. Make sure that the cross-shaped hole of the motor connector is pointing in the same direction as it is on this side. So for example, if you look through here, you can see that the motor connector is currently pointing down. So this one will also need to point down like this. The goal is to make sure that both legs will be moving in unison, so the bunny looks like it's hopping. So here's a quick recap. Long staple-shaped connectors into the motor connector. Attach that here. 2 spacers onto this piece. This piece goes onto the motor, then attach the leg. Finish with one of these pieces here and here. Front leg goes here. The last staple-shaped connection goes right here. Then put this piece onto that connector and cap those off with these pieces. Okay, try it out and see if it's working. Now if your bunny is moving a little sluggishly like this, there's a couple things you can do. First, you could try applying more wax around the outside of this long gap here, and put more wax on the inside. This will help reduce friction and make this part move smoother. And repeat on the other side. Another thing you can try doing is loosening up these connections just a little bit. This is a great time to use something like a butter knife to gently get between the connector and the body and just give it a wiggle. Another common issue is that during construction, these big side pieces can get pinched toward the middle. So just push these out to the sides, like that. Okay, let's try it out again. Alright, that's looking much better. If your bunny's legs are not moving in unison, like this, then it's not going to work. To fix that, you can wedge a butter knife between the side piece and the motor connector, and just give it a twist to push it away. Now you can easily rotate the motor connector by grabbing this piece and turning it. Reattach it so both legs will move in unison. If the motor connector keeps falling off, you can put a very small piece of tape on top of the motor shaft and then reattach the connector. It can be helpful to use a butter knife by first getting the connector in position, putting the butter knife over the connector like this, and then pushing down on the knife. One more thing to note is that this robot works especially well on smooth surfaces. Here I have a piece of carpet, and you can see that the bunny has a hard time going anywhere. By contrast, here's a smooth piece of plywood, and you can see that the bunny is moving much better. Okay, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy your new bunny bot.